Dun dun dun. Hey, beautiful people. Hello. It's a nice sunny day here in the UK. I didn't want to spend a long time here. I just feel that I want to share this and do a Facebook Live, which I'll put up on YouTube later, about this topic, the one book. This is important, like for moments in our life, books, situations that transform us. One of them it literally was one book that converted me from atheism, a belief, a lack of God, of evolution, of spinning ball, of meaningless life, to creation and to a belief in the God of some kind. And it was literally one book. I mean, I was born Roman Catholic, brought up to believe, went to church as a kid, brought up my Roman Catholic mum to believe in God. But if I'm being honest, whilst I was at church a lot of the time, I thought it was bullshit. I wondered, there was always questions. I mean, even though I guess I did believe. And then in secondary school, I think maybe, yeah, it was about secondary school, about 11 to, can't remember the age, but I remember what year I read this book in 2014. But from 11 till, I don't know, I'd say 2014, we're 2021, 7 years ago, 2022. So, yeah, from the age of 11 till 21, I went hardcore into a belief in atheism. And then it was this book called God versus Darwin. I'd always been reading a lot of books, and I got this one from Amazon because it had quite a few good reviews. I don't know what led me to this book actually. I wonder. Anyway, I did read this book. It was called God versus Darwin: The Logical Supremacy of Intelligent Creationism Over Evolution. And I'm rereading this book, but it was this book that I read in 2014 that it was one book. Reading this book changed me from believing in atheism to creationism. You know how it is, guys, with some, just all it takes is a moment in your time when you're ready, and just one person saying something on a YouTube video, one person explaining it, a different personality type explaining it in a book, one person in your life had a situation that flips you over and you change. Maybe the seed's been planted before. But this book is really good. Um, and it's the way the author, who's a fucking legend, the way he writes it, MS King, in a simple yet smart way. Because I had never been exposed to the fallacies and holes of evolution until I read this book, like ever. Um, I'm rereading it. I haven't finished rereading it, but one of them that I'm reminded of, one of the big holes in evolution is if there is an idea from Stephen Hawking and all the other bullshitters, geniuses out there, that we evolved from a big bang, we weren't created, and we transitioned from a fish to a human over many years. If that is true, then in this book I learned, which you guys are probably well aware of, that in order to transition from a fish to a human, we should have many transitional fossil species from the fish to the human. And yet, when you look at the fossil records, there's so many missing links between in the fossil record of no examples of the transition between a fish that apparently became us. I mean, they joke about in this book in a really funny way because he's smart and really smart. This guy, I can relate to him. He went on his own journey, believing in God, not believing, and then realizing eventually it wasn't. But it's like what he says in the book, like we're effectively saying with evolutionism, if it's real, that there's no difference between a fly, a maggot, and I mean a human. And in one sense, it's not, but it's kind of weird to think that we evolved from a fly. It's a very bizarre thing. There's loads. It's just a really good book. You guys should definitely read it. Even if you do, I'm sure many people watching this would believe in creationism. It's just a really good book to really put a seed of doubt into people that are atheists. Because ultimately, and I'll just say it, to be atheist is to be wrong. You're wrong. It's not a belief in creationism. We might disagree on what God is. Is it a man in the sky? Don't think so. Is it a consciousness entity? Yeah. Are we God too? Yeah. Could have been created. We're a piece of it too. Right? Piece of the whole. These aren't beliefs. From being in a Facebook community for 4 or 5 years now, my own studies, I've come to realize, and psychedelics too helped a lot with that. You come to realize that there's a lot more going on we are definitely God. We are definitely fucking the infinite, and we are infinite. We don't really die here from this reality. Oh, another thing with this that's great. It's really interesting in terms of what Darwin wrote when he wrote the Origin of Species. Let me read it out to you quick. I don't want to spend too long with this. Although it's really cool. It's really good information. Where did I see it? It's really interesting because most people haven't read Charles Darwin's Origin of Species in full, and you can read it on the internet apparently. For free. But there's interesting bits he highlights on them that even Darwin. Just let me find where this is. Right, here we go. Get into it. Oh yeah, so the argument about the eye. The eye. Like, how can that come? The complexity of an eye of everything in creation, the human being body. I mean, we that are in the physical health community know how amazingly powerful the human body is to heal itself and all that shit. Yet Darwin wants to say, and Stephen Hawkins and all, a lot of people out there think it's all accident. Jesus Christ, damn fucks. Not being mean or nothing, but anyway, this is a direct quote from Charles Darwin. You guys might find interesting, unless you've read, even if you have read, you've probably forgotten this interesting quote from Charles Darwin on the Origin of Species book. This is when he's talking about the eye. So he says, to suppose that, this is Charles Darwin, to suppose that the eye, with all its inimitable contrivances for adjusting the focus to different instances, for admitting different amounts of light, and for the correction of spherical and chromatic aberration, could have been formed by natural selection seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest degree. So that's Charles Darwin saying his fucking theory is absurd. That's one bit that was interesting. Oh yeah, and what I said earlier about there's no interspecies fossil links on so many things from us becoming us from a fly. You know what I mean? There's no denying, by the way, that there's small transitional changes like the Darwin's finches. That's where his genius, or kind of cool discovery, but not really that smart, if I'm being honest, comes into play. So there is a little bit within a species, like an aberration maybe change from color skin. So the further from the sun, maybe not. Don't know nothing. But maybe your skin color changes the further from the sun, but you're still the same species called human. Maybe that's got what's going on with the Darwin finches, and maybe all the other shit is bullshit. Maybe not. Oh, this is the connecting links, the missing ones. Charles Darwin again. On this doctrine of the extermination of an institute of connecting links between the living and extinct inhabitants of the world, and at each successive period between extinct and older species, why is not every geological formation charged with such links? Why does not every collection of fossil remains afford plain evidence of this graduation and mutation of forms of life? We meet with no such evidence, and this is the most obvious and forcible of the many objections against my theory. Shit. Just gonna read that again. That's really cool. Charles Darwin fucking knows the arguments against his theory and makes no sense. He's gonna rationalize it in some kind of logical fallacy, ad hominem, straw man bullshit attack. Okay, on this doctrine of extermination of an infinitude of connecting links between the living and extinct inhabitants of the world, and each successive period between extinct and older species, why is not every geological formation charged with such links? Why does not every collection of fossil remain afford plain evidence of the graduation and mutation of the forms of life? We meet with no such evidence, and this is most obvious and forcible of the many objections against my theories. Yeah, well, exactly, because it's all bullshit, Mr. Darwin. A bit like Mr. Einstein, who in this book as well, Tesla quoted and said, Einstein's theory of relativity makes no fucking sense and it involves too complicated mathematics which no one understands because it's not true and made up by a fucking loon. I don't know. I don't want to be too harsh there on Einstein. I don't want to be too harsh on Darwin either, because Darwin was right about the finches. Not that that matters that much. Just, it's an interesting discovery, but it's not a big discovery as evolution, which is a fucking lie, because that's a huge one. And why is this such a big deal? Evolution versus creationism, just to finish off. Tell you why it's such a big deal. Because if you believe in atheism, which is false, you are more susceptible and highly likely to be more controllable. Whereas if you believe correctly in truth that you are created, then you are much less likely to be able to be controlled. because you'll realise you were created, you are God, and you are sovereign, and you can do whatever the fuck you want, and no one can tame your spirit and stop you learning, growing, and becoming happy and healthy. So check this book out. I'll do a post on it later on Facebook. It's really fucking awesome. I love it very much. Sometimes books come along in your life that wake you up. It doesn't have to be this one, but this one did for me. Got very few books. I can count my fingers, the ones that really moved me, changed me. This one changed me from the lie of evolution. Literally, after reading this book, I remember the date, 2014. I was working in Lidl's in the supermarket. I read this book, and from that day on, till my death, I see the truth of God. Alright, peace. Thanks.